Hey everyone, so my name is Josh Telfer. I'm a physical therapist at Physical Therapy and Balance Centers in St. Peters, Missouri. And I want to talk to you about moving towards a healthier life using healthy habits to improve your overall health. So I have a bachelor's of exercise science, a doctorate of physical therapy. I'm a certified lymphedema therapist and a licensed physical therapist, and I have a master's of public health in epidemiology. I like to try to educate people on preventative health issues. One of those things is trying to figure out how to increase our longevity through healthy behaviors and habits. The problems that we face are the causes of death. Here are the top 10 causes of death in the United States in 2023. Heart disease is number one consistently every year, and cancer is consistently number two. Then we have accidents and unintentional injuries, which include falls, and the list goes on from there. So falls are something that we deal with a lot at Physical that we want people to avoid. And one of the things that you can do to avoid falls is to improve your longevity, to be healthier at an older age. And this is dependent on a lot of factors. There was a study that found that genes and biology, health behaviors, social, environmental, social characteristics, and then your physical environment and access to healthcare services are some factors that contribute to your longevity. So I like to call this your deck of cards, and as we receive inherited traits from our parents, these make up our deck of cards that we have to play with. But our health behaviors are like the way that we play those cards, our strategies, and the way that we, order that we play those cards in. So our behavior is kind of like something we can influence in our life. And then also, our environment, like the other players around us, the other card players, and then, who we're playing cards with. If we can choose these factors, a lot of times we can help influence our health in a positive direction. So, for instance, if you don't have good access to healthcare services, but you're able to move to a different city or state or country that has better access and coverage for healthcare, that could be a behavior that you do in order to change your environment and thereby improve your health. So we always have to consider, I think, behavior and environment, not just our inherited traits. We can actually influence a lot of our health through health behaviors and through our environment. There was a study that was done by Call and Call's colleagues. So in 2008, this study found that people who lived longer were more physically active, ate 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day, consumed minimal to modest amounts of alcohol, and did not smoke. So the interesting finding from this, I think we would expect people who eat their fruits and veggies, don't smoke, and are physically active to live longer. But the interesting thing here too is that the minimal amounts of alcohol actually improve people's health. So not over-consuming alcohol, not abusing alcohol, but drinking it in minimal to modest amounts actually improves health. Why? Well, a lot of people think that what's happening here is actually the social benefits of social drinking, of minimal amounts of alcohol. When we are part of a group, when we go out to parties with our friends, or we engage in, like a book club with drinking wine, or we go to the local bar and just have, one beer, that's actually improving your health through giving you connections to other people that care about you. So the social aspect is what we suspect is helping a lot with that. Now, the bottom line up front here for this presentation is that you should get 150 minutes of aerobic exercise per week. You should eat 4 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables per day. You should spend more time doing things you love, in places you love, with people you love, and people who love you. So the sleeping 7 to 9 hours per night is also really important, and I spend a lot of time talking about the beneficial effects of sleep and how it's kind of neglected in our society. So this is about the 4 pillars of health: aerobic exercise, or exercise in general, eating 4 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables for your diet, your nutrition, spending more time with people who you love and love you. That's a social health. And then sleeping 7 to 9 hours per night. So let's talk about physical activity. 150 minutes per week or 30 minutes per day. So for older adults, 65 years and older, it's recommended you get 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity exercise, such as brisk walking. So you're going to be working up a little bit of a sweat. You're still able to talk to somebody that you're walking with, so you're not totally out of breath. But you're also, working up a sweat and your heart rate's going up. So we call it the target heart rate that you want to be hitting with your physical activity. At least 2 days a week of activities that strengthen your muscles. So this can be just 15 minutes of simple exercises like sit to stands from a chair, push-ups or wall push-ups if you can't do a full push-up. Other activities you could do like free weights, lifting with 5-pound weights. It can be very light, or if you can tolerate heavier lifting without hurting your joints, you can do 10-pound weights. So activities to improve your balance, such as standing on one foot. You can also do Tai Chi or, even yoga has some balance aspects to it. So these are good activities for you to do to get your physical activity needs met. So endurance is talking about that aerobic exercise. We typically need to get our heart rate up for about 30 to 40 minutes before we start burning fats and lipids. That's called aerobic exercise, and that's very good for cardiopulmonary health, your heart and your lungs, keeping them healthy. Strength is the musculoskeletal health, so in order to avoid things like osteoporosis, we need to lift weights and do what we call axial loading, where you're getting weight that's going actually through your vertebral column, your back, and loading your hips and your back with that weight helps stimulate bone growth. That's something called Wolff's Law, that bones grow in the direction that they receive force. Your bones are going to get stronger when you're pushing up against a weight. Balance, reducing fall risk, is our bread and butter here at FYZICAL. We have an overhead system that can help keep you safe, to give you more confidence, to test your balance, because it will catch you. It's like a climbing rope with a climbing harness, basically, that extends all the way up to the shoulders and the chest, and that will help catch you and avoid falls. So it gives you more confidence to practice your balance activities without fearing falling. And we have other tools here too, like our infrared goggles that help us to visualize your eyes while we do vestibular testing to see if your vestibular system could be contributing to your balance issues. So if you're interested in getting a tailored strength, endurance, or balance program, this is our bread and butter as physical therapists and here at FYZICAL. Nutrition. So I like to quote Michael Pollan, the journalist who's written a lot on nutrition. In one of his books, he says, "Eat food not too much, mostly plants." So a plant-based diet has been shown, along with the Mediterranean diet, to be like very good, healthy diet for heart health and longevity. Foods that keep you healthy include fruits and vegetables, low fat, low sodium, lean meats and nuts. I like to eat chicken and salmon, some of my favorites. Fermented foods like beets, sauerkraut, and kimchi are actually really good for your gut health. There's a guy, I forget what his first name is, but his last name I think is Soderbergh, and he wrote a book called The Good Gut. He talks about fermented foods, and he also talks about the importance of a high fiber diet. So things like whole grains, whole oats, fruits and vegetables, plants, they have a lot of fiber in them. And Soderbergh talks about, if not in his book, he talked about this in a recent podcast not too long ago, where he said that some hunter-gatherer societies have as much as 150 grams of fiber a day in their diet. And he said in the Western diet, the average amount of fiber we consume per day is about 15 grams. So that's significantly less, severely less. So if I can do the math quickly, 15, so it's going to be about 10 times less. So 15 and 150, not that hard to compute. Should have taken me less time than that. But if we're getting 1/10 of the amount of fiber as hunter-gatherers, it could be contributing to poor gut health. So I like to emphasize that because I want people to consume more fiber in their diets, because we do have a lot of colon cancer in the West, a lot more colon cancer than in other societies that tend to eat more plant-based diets, or they eat less processed foods and less fatty, salty, and sugary foods. So plant-based diet is, in a nutshell, what you should be getting more of if you want to have a healthier diet and better nutrition. So avoid high salt. If you look on the back of packages in the store, high salt, high sugar, high fat, ultra-processed foods that are on the inside of the store, on the inner shelves, you want to avoid that stuff. You want to stick to the outer part of the store where the cold chain foods are stored, and avoid the low fiber foods. Try to eat the fruits and the vegetables and the plants. So we're going to move on to sleep. 7 to 9 hours per night is what's recommended for adults, depending on how much you feel you need. But there are a lot of risk factors for chronic sleep deprivation. Higher risk of heart attack is one of them. Higher risk of obesity is another. Chronic sleep deprivation may lead to higher risk of cancer, but they're having a hard time, proving that at this point. But then once you lose sleep, you cannot get it back. This is a very important concept to understand. Sleep is like time. It can only be spent. It cannot be saved. So a lot of us treat, I think, sleep like, money, where we think, I'll just spend more today and then I can save more tomorrow. And that's not the way it works. Time is a resource that is, it's the resource that is non-renewable, right? So like time, sleep is also non-renewable. You have to get it every day. And if you're only getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep on one day, you cannot make it up tomorrow. So as we see with this figure from the book Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, sleep loss, when you get less sleep, you have a higher risk of obesity. So this is a great little figure to help you understand that you actually burn less calories when you get less sleep, or you burn fewer calories when you get less sleep. So a lot of people, they think, well, I'm going to stay up, might as well eat more. That's not the way it works. If you stay up later, your body slows down its function, so it's not burning those calories as efficiently. And actually what tends to happen is you overeat in order to try to get more energy, because your body is working slower. So you actually burn fewer calories and have a higher risk of gaining weight if you're sleep deprived. It's an important thing to understand. Coffee cannot make up for your sleep. It's another important thing to understand. It's a painkiller, basically. Coffee helps you feel less tired. It does not make you more alert. Caffeine and alcohol also disrupt your sleep by disrupting something called REM, or REM sleep. So you want to try to avoid caffeine in the afternoon and alcohol shortly before going to bed. You want to drink. You want to avoid fluids in general right before you go to bed, because it can make you get up in the night to go to the bathroom, which disrupts your sleep as well. This figure 12 from Why We Sleep is really great too, because it shows you sleep loss and car crashes. So basically what you're seeing here is that when you have less sleep, you have a higher chance of getting into a car accident. That is showing you that you're not more alert when you drink caffeine. You're still less alert. So reaction times don't really improve when you drink caffeine. It's just helping to numb the pain of sleep deprivation. So you may feel less of the pain of being tired, but you're actually still not alert. And they compare, in Why We Sleep, I think he compares having 4 to 5 hours of sleep as driving under the influence of alcohol. I don't know how much alcohol it is, but basically he's saying, hey, it's very dangerous to drive sleep deprived. So it's also helping you to understand the importance of sleep, because if you're less alert at work, you're not going to be functioning at the level that you should be. You're going to be dragging and lagging, and that's going to cause you to have a less productive day. Sleep tips. So warm shower or bath right before bed can help you sleep, keeping your room temperature low. So this typical 24-hour circadian rhythm chart, figure 1 from Why We Sleep, shows you that the temperature that your body is at when you sleep. So it shows you that your body temperature goes down as you sleep. So if you see the 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. Segment there, so actually it's better to keep the room temperature low when you're trying to sleep. If you have a thermostat that adjusts for the day and the night, try to keep it lower, around 67 to 69 degrees at night, depending on your tolerance for cold. What that's doing is it's mimicking the environment that our ancestors would have been exposed to, where they didn't have temperature regulation. So what we have now is artificial light and temperature regulation, which is very convenient, but also can disrupt our sleep. So it's important to try to keep that room temperature low and to get some good rest at night. So your bedroom should be for sleep only. It should not be used for working or exercising or other activities not related to basically rest and sleep. Avoid screen time before bed. Try not to have a television in your room. Try not to have the television on while you sleep. That's going to disrupt your sleep. The light, when it hits your eyes, is telling you to stay awake. Even having your cell phone in the bedroom to look at night, if you're having a hard time sleeping, that's going to wake you up more and disrupt your sleep. Unless reading helps you go to sleep at night and just puts you right to sleep, I wouldn't read before bed. I tend to get more awake when I read because I read with a pen in hand and I really focus on what I'm reading. So for me, I try not to read right before bed. Avoiding artificial light. So again, if you can keep the lights dim in your room, if you can go to bed with the sun, that's ideal, but that's not very practical, especially at higher latitudes where we don't have a whole lot of sunlight in the winter. So try to avoid artificial light when you're getting ready for bed. If you can dim your lights or just use the lamps, it's better than having those fluorescent lights or getting a lot of screen time in right before bed. The most important tip that Matthew Walker talks about in his book, Why We Sleep, is going to bed at the same time each night. That's going to be really the number one thing you can do to be consistent and to get a good night's rest. Wake up at sunrise if you can. Again, in the higher latitudes, this is not going to work with daylight saving times. But if you live closer to the equator, you may be able to swing this, pretty much all year long, where you have, 12 hours a night, roughly 12 and 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of no light. So, if you live at the equator or close to it, where there's only a 30-minute fluctuation in daylight hours all year, you can probably wake up at sunrise every day if you want to, and that would be extremely healthy. If you do have a hard time staying asleep, try to stay in bed. If you wake up at night, if you get up and you start doing activities, turning on lights, activating your brain, looking at screens, it's going to keep you awake. It's going to wake you up. It's going to disrupt that normal circadian rhythm. So try to stay in bed if you're having a hard time sleeping. The last thing is embrace your rhythm. So if you are a night owl, don't try to be a morning person. If you're a morning person, don't try to be a night owl. Just accept what you are. Especially for teenagers, this is really important. They need more sleep than adults. So teenagers may need as much as 10 hours of sleep a night. So try to help them get that sleep. Try to help them get to bed on time. And if you do have options to let them get up later, just let them sleep in because their bodies are growing and they need that sleep. So what leads to good sleep? Going to bed at the same time each night. Again, getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. You can also exercise in the morning or early afternoon rather than at night. Again, exercise is one of those things that's going to wake your body up and tell it to start firing and start activating. You don't want that when you're trying to go to sleep. So try to avoid nighttime exercise unless you have a circadian rhythm or a plan that regularly allows you to stay up later. A warm shower, bath, and a chilled room. So a warm shower, bath before bed, and a cool room for nighttime sleeping. Even if you're taking a nap, if your room's cooler, it's going to help you sleep better. Think of people in warmer climates that try to rest during the hottest part of the day. that is, what they're doing. They're trying to find a cool place to sleep during that hot part of the day. So that lower temperature helps us sleep. Avoid caffeine after 12 p.m. and foods or fluids, especially alcohol, 2 to 4 hours before bed. Didn't talk about foods, but if you're eating, soon before bed, your body's gonna have to digest that food. It's gonna stay in your stomach for longer. So try to eat, a good amount of time before bed. I would say if you can swing 5 hours before bed, that will give your body more time to get that food out of your stomach and start moving it down into your intestines, and that's going to help you sleep better at night. So if you can go to wake up with the sun, that's ideal. It's really unrealistic to wake up and go to bed with the sun unless you live at the equator, but that would be probably the ideal way to get your rest, because you're letting that natural light kind of wake you up and help you go to bed. But at the very least, try to reduce your exposure or dim lights at night. You don't want to have a lot of artificial light, especially hitting your eyes with screen time. That's bad for you. Use your bedroom for sleep only, and then stay in bed when you're having trouble sleeping. So just reiterating a lot of those tips. I like to talk about sleep because, like the diet, I feel like it doesn't get enough emphasis in our Western society. Something that does get more emphasis these days is mental and social health. Doesn't mean that we're necessarily good at it, but you want to surround yourself with people, places, and pursuits that you love and who love you back. So 7 factors that predict healthy aging. These would be something that came out of the Harvard study, longevity, and they include not being a smoker or stopping when you're young, having an adaptive coping style or mature psychological defense mechanisms. And so those, if you're more interested in what those are, you can look those up. I think Anna Freud is a person who helped to develop those, the daughter of Sigmund Freud. Absence of alcohol abuse is important. We talked about that a little bit. Healthy weight, stable marriage. So relationships are really important, and marriages can be very protective in giving you somebody that's going to be an accountability partner for your health and encourage you to maintain healthy behaviors. Getting some exercise, and then education is really important. So we can't choose where we're born, but once we're of a certain age, we can choose where we live sometimes, or if we want to go back to school and get more education, or if we have friends or connections that can get us a higher paying job. So if we want to take a course or go to a local community college or technical school to learn a new skill set that could help us make money on the side, there's lots of opportunities for education. So education is related to health as well, and that's what they found in this Harvard study. So in order to play our cards right with our behavior, we need to make and break habits. So we need to make good habits, and we need to break bad habits. Habits typically come in a predictable fashion, which is usually a cue that causes us to behave in a certain way. That's our routine, and which gives us a reward, which in a case of a bad habit, it could be smoking or drinking, for example. Stress may cause us to want to get a routine of smoking or drinking, which may give us a reward of reduced stress. So there are physical environments that can contribute to that. If you have people who smoke or drink around you, you're more likely to smoke or drink. If you're going to a place where alcohol or cigarettes are readily accessible, you're more likely to pick them up. So if you have a routine, you want to identify it. You want to experiment with other rewards, healthier rewards. You want to isolate the cue. So if it's like a friend or a place, you want to try to avoid that. And then have a plan to implement a different, better habit. So implementation intentions are if-then plans that spell out in advance how one wants to strive for a set goal. So you would create an implementation intention of each time I pass the bar where I want to go drink, I'm going to instead change my route, and I'm going to go on a different street. Or every time that I want to reach for a cigarette. I'm going to limit my access by not having them around me. And then I'm going to instead, chew nicotine gum, or, use a patch, or do something else that's a better habit, go exercise instead. But it has to be realistic, whatever it is. And, your healthcare professionals can help you develop these habits. Mine would be more physical based. If you came in, I would be trying to help you figure out how to, walk on a regular basis, or do your exercise routine at home on a regular basis. Mental health professionals may be helping you to break addictions through creating other healthier habits as well. So Charles Duhigg wrote this book called The Power of Habit, which talks about this. And in the book, he used the example of every day he would get up in the afternoon and he would try to go get a cookie at the cafeteria at his workplace. So he eventually realized that he was doing this probably because he was either bored or, wanted a little sugar kick because maybe he was a little bit tired. So instead, he would try to go walk outside or go to the water cooler and talk with his colleagues because he might have been lonely too from having been working all day. Maybe he just wanted a break to be, a little bit more social. So he didn't really necessarily need to know exactly what was causing him to want to go get this cookie, but he replaced it with different habits and experimented with different rewards. So he's going to the water cooler to talk with some colleagues. That's a social reward. He's going outside to get a break. That's, an environmental reward, getting some sunlight, getting a little bit of a break. And, he could experiment with other things. So physical activity is also a reward as well. So if you can find a good habit to replace the bad habit, that can sometimes be an effective way of changing your behavior. There's also these stages of psychosocial development that help us live a healthy life. This is developed by a guy named Erik Erikson, a psychologist who lived in the early and mid-1900s. And he wrote a book about the life cycle where he identified not only the early stages of development of infancy, childhood, and adolescence, but also the stages of development that we continue to encounter as we get older. So young adulthood, we have intimacy versus isolation. You're trying to develop relationships and have a good social connections and find your place in the world. In middle adulthood, you're trying to be very productive. A lot of times middle adults have to take care of their children as well as their parents. So it's very important that they, have a good work-life balance and have the ability to care for the young and the old because they make up the most productive segment of society. So it's, a lot of the labor may fall on them. So it's important to, for them to be able to be productive and generate a lot of good work. It also helps them psychologically because it helps them feel fulfilled in life. If they're having a family and they're creating products or services or art that makes the world, a better place or is appreciated and recognized. The last stage that Erikson came up with was maturity, or the kind of the golden years of life, where it's people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, where the challenge is to actually age with grace and integrity. So he compared this two poles for each stage, and in this maturity stage, it's integrity versus despair. So some people may look back on their life and have a lot of regrets and may become depressed because they wish they had more opportunities. Other people may look back on their life and focus on the good memories and say, hey, I'm really happy that I was able to experience these things, and I'm looking forward to making more good memories before I inevitably have to pass on. So it's a part of being a mortal social animal, is that we want to be able to engage with the people around us. We want to have good memories. It's hard to grow old. It can be painful to lose our independence, our mobility, and it's literally painful a lot of times with an aging body to be able to do the things, we can no longer do the things we once did. So it's psychologically painful, but it's also physically painful as our body literally breaks down. So a lot of people have a lot of wisdom as they get older, I think, because they learn to prioritize the most important activities and tasks during their daily routine. This may be, as we get older, focusing more on the people around us that we really love and appreciate, and the hobbies that we know give us the most pleasure. So for some people that may be gardening, it may be their family or closest friends. But a lot of times what people will do is narrow their focus as they get older and really have higher quality time on fewer activities and people, which gives them sometimes more joy than when they were spreading themselves so thin at a younger age. So at Physical, we're trying to maximize these years. We treat children to adults, but a lot of the people that are coming to us are people in the middle age and elderly age groups, because they are trying to preserve their physical function as best as possible and rehab from injuries, which get more likely as we get older. And I want to help people get to the point where they are maximizing their life and their pleasure and their independence in order to enjoy their years. So that is a useful paradigm for trying to focus on your mental health, whatever age or level you're at. You can look at this paradigm and say, hey, if I'm adolescence, I need to focus on finding my identity and enjoying who I am. And if I'm a young adult, I need to focus on intimacy over isolation. If I'm a middle adult, I need to focus on productivity and taking care of the people around me that I love and care about. If I'm an older adult, I need to focus on facing these challenges with integrity and focusing on the memories that I really enjoy and being thankful for the life and the good memories that I have, and looking forward to making more good memories as I age. So I like this paradigm. I like to share it with people for your mental and social health. If you're interested in reading more, here are some of the books that I used during the presentation. And then here's some resources that I've cited. So dig into it if you want to. You can always just pause the video and read these off. But thank you so much for listening, and have a great day.